Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. 17-degree primary bevel on a chisel. Does it actually have any value? Does it work? Will it make a difference? I'm going to walk you through and show you how I discovered it and how beneficial it is. Stay with me. It wouldn't be an inaccurate statement to say that I cut dovetails for a living, or at least I teach it. And in the process of cutting dovetails, I've often had problems that I've had to overcome. And I want to show you how and why I discovered the 17-degree chisel. When you're dealing with chopping waste in soft woods, I'm talking about things like pine, aspen, alder, basswood, even poplar. What often happens is chopping in between the pins or the tails, you get huge wood fracture in the middle. Big pieces pop out. Now, if it happens right here, it's not a problem. But the closer it gets to the surface, and then you have to start planing in order to clean up the joint once it's assembled, all of a sudden you start to get a translucent area right along here where this big gap is exposed very close to the surface. Drove me crazy. I did everything I possibly could and couldn't seem to find a solution until this. So I pride myself on knowing how to sharpen. And I'd be working on something with all of this fiber failure, I call it. My chisels were as sharp as I could get them. 25-degree primary bevel. Didn't matter. It did not matter how frequently or how soon after sharpening I did it. You would still, in some woods, have this fracture, this fiber fracture, which just drove me crazy. So what did I do? Well, I started playing around with the primary bevel. Now, I've got a theory behind why this works. I'll share that with you toward the end of the video, but I would lower the primary bevel 2 or 3 degrees, put on a secondary and a tertiary, sharpen it, and try it. And I kept doing that. When I reached what turned out to be 17 degrees, I found that it would go through the wood, and the same fibers that tore at 25 degrees, now they didn't. Now, I'm actually going to demonstrate. So I'm going to use the other side of this piece and just see what's going to happen. It's as close to being the same piece of wood. I'll flip it over and start on the inside first. Now, I always remove a little bit I get closer to the line if I'd left too much from the fret saw. So I'll set the chisel right on the marking gauge line, chop down about halfway. I've since changed that procedure. I now only go about 1/3 of the way, but that's beside the point for right now. Set the chisel right in the gauge line. Do your best to follow, actually I should take a little off, to follow the slope of the pin, which saves a lot of time on the next phase. All right, let's see what we got. Well, if you look at this, we don't have, you see, we have failure up in here, we have failure in here, here, big chunk out here, along here. So on this one, we don't have any failure right up where it's really critical. We got a little bit right here, but it's in the middle of the board, which is fine. And this is actually nice and clean. So what I do now, I tell my students to do now is instead of coming halfway in the first chop, only come about 1/3 of the way. Then when you're chopping from the face, which is the side you're going to see, save that for the 2/3. What happens is you get right to about here, and what's left tends to break instead of cut. And that's why you end up getting these big chunks coming out like this. So a 17-degree chisel, there are some limitations. I'm going to show you how to actually make one, and I'm going to tell you what you need to avoid when using something with that acute of an angle. And before you decide to make one of these, you have to know there are some limitations. When you're dealing with an angle that is that acute, there is very little metal out there to support the cutting edge. So there's something called the Janka scale, and that rates the hardness of wood. I'll give you a couple of examples. Here's a piece of maple, eastern maple, rates at 1450. Piece of pine is 380. Here's a piece of aspen that is 350. Poplar is just a little over 500. You go much beyond poplar, and that edge will literally fold in the wood while you're chopping on it. But for something like this, and if you're going to use these softwoods, you almost have to have a couple of chisels designated just for that. But they just do a beautiful job of cutting so nice and clean on woods like that would typically fracture. So I'm going to show you how to grind it, and I'm going to show you how to hone it, and if you want, you can make your own. You're going to need a bench grinder, you're going to need a decent tool rest, and you need a protractor. And that's all there is to it. Now, it's very difficult to go in there and set this up without any kind of a gauge. So all I do is, if I know this is 25 degrees, I'm going to set that up so that I'm touching somewhere down here on the heel. And I'm just going to start it. I've got to remove a fair bit of material, so I'm going to fire it up. Just get a look. Now, I have no idea what that's going to be, but I doubt very much it's going to be 17 right away, but I still have to remove all that material regardless, so I may as well do it in stages. Now, if you're using a regular grinding wheel, you're going to be constantly having to dip in order to cool it off. I'm so impressed with these CBN wheels, and I'll leave a link where we actually provide them now. They're so easy to use. They cut very fast, and because it's a big heavy steel wheel itself, it becomes a heat sink. So I can grind this entire chisel without having to stop and cool it off. Just keep having a look. Now, if I get a little bit closer toward the edge, I'll put my protractor on there and just try to figure out where I am in relation to 17 degrees. I can still hold on to that, so that's how cool that wheel is. It's an 80 grit. It's called CBN, or carbon boron nitrate. You can even grind carbide on it. You don't have to dress it. It's already balanced. You put the wheel on and go to work. There's no maintenance to it, and it lasts a long time. Well worth the extra money. If you do any amount of grinding, seriously consider it. Okay, I should be able to read off of that now. I'll take my protractor. I'm going to set that for, where are we? I'm going to be on this side. So there's 10, 15, 17. Lock that. And come over here. I can see I still have quite a bit to remove off of the heel. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to tip this tool rest back just a small amount. Lock it. This is called I can't think of the name of it, but it's made by One Way Manufacturing, and it's the best tool rest that you're going to find. It looks rather crude the way I've got this set up, but it'll attach and work with any grinder. We've got a nice, great big platform to work off. Everything is rock solid, and it works on a cam, so it's nice and quick to set up. Okay, I can see my new bevel is right there. You want to make sure that you keep your tool, in this case a chisel, tight to the rest so that you maintain that angle. If you, in pushing the chisel into the wheel, you allow it to ride up, you're going to end up with multiple facets on there, and that's not ideal. So most of the pressure is keeping the chisel tight to the tool rest and light pressure into the stone or the wheel. Let's check this again. Get a light colored background, makes it easier to see. And that looks to be right on. So there, I've got my 17. Now what I'm going to do is just take that out to the tip, and then we can go over to the stones and I'll show you how to do the final preparation on it. I should add, when you set this up, you want to try to get that platform parallel to the front, to the cutting edge of the wheel. Now, it's all freehand, so I'm constantly stopping and checking to make sure the end of that is square. If you can't tell by eye, you can put a square on it. And I've got a little bit of material to remove off of this side, which happens to be this side when I turn it over. So what I'll do is just I'll turn the chisel a little bit so that the sparks are favoring that side. A few seconds of adjustment, turn it over, check it again, and just keep doing that until you bring it around. So it may not be that you're going to get a square edge with it appearing to be square to the wheel. You may have to angle it one way or the other. Remember to keep it tight to the tool rest. Okay, that looks good. We can go over to the stone. Wait. Now, if you want best performance, you've got to go through and prepare the back. Now, I'll leave a link on preparing chisels in a video we've done before, but I bring that polish right up to 16,000 grit. Now, I want to keep that angle low, so I'm going to do a secondary bevel on this 1,000 grit stone, and I'm going to do a tertiary or a third bevel on this 16,000 grit. This is what I finished the back with. So I'm going to lay that down right on that primary bevel, which is extremely low. Only bring it up just a degree or so. Now, it's best if you just go little short forward strokes, forward and back. Move side to side a little bit so you're not wearing the stone in one spot. If you try to do circles with something like this, you'll end up skewing it often. And just work that until you can feel a slight burr in the back side. Remember to just get off of the primary bevel, not much more. You want to keep that super low cutting angle that will work so well on those soft woods. Okay, I can feel a burr now. You can wipe that off if you want. Come over to your 16,000. Same thing, register on the primary bevel and come up just a degree or two higher than you did on the previous stone. And anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. Again, I'm just doing little short forward strokes. Then lay it over on its back and take just a few seconds to remove any burr. Careful to keep it down nice and tight. Now when you're done, you'll have a nice, sharp, in this case 16,000 grit, final bevel, and that'll slice through the softest of wood and leave it perfect. Hope this helps. If you like my work and enjoy my style of teaching, click on any one of these videos and help take your woodworking to the next level. I've always said, better tools make the job so much easier. If you click on the link below, the chisel and plane icon, it'll take you to our site and introduce you to all the tools that we actually manufacture right here in our shop. It'll also give you information on our online and in-person workshops.